Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. I am, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I'm joined by my buddy Myron.
Hey, folks, what's up with y'all today?
We're doing good, Myron.
Always good to hear your voice, Myron. Oh, cool. Okay, so what do you got for us today, Nick?
Well, man, we're doing something a little bit different. This is going to be the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast first watch-along.
Oh, a new project.
Yeah, something a little bit different. We've never done one before. Always wanted to do one. I just always worried about them being like the length. You know, when you watch a pay-per-view and it's like 2 hours or 3 hours or something like that. 7 hours if you're watching the WrestleMania as of recent. That is correct. This one, though, is a real special. We'll get into the story, how it happened once we get started. But so it's the documentary, The Wrestler, a QT Marshall story. You can find it, by the way, because we want everybody that can to check it out and kind of watch along with us. So once we tell you where it's at, here's how this kind of basically works. If you go on Amazon Prime, if you're an Amazon Prime member, obviously it's there. Actually, you don't even have to be a Prime member to actually, because you're going to pay to rent it. So not a big deal, right?
Not at all.
So go to Amazon Video or Prime Video, whatever they call it now. And look up, it's The Wrestler, a QT Marshall story. And it's $2.99 to rent, $9.99 to purchase.
You want to purchase this, folks?
Absolutely, for $10. We joked about it, right? I mean, it's like it's less than a trip for one of us to go to Moe's or something, or
And then nobody yells, "Welcome to Moe's" at you either.
Exactly. So check it out. So first and foremost, go to Amazon, go to find it. We're going to put the links up in our Facebook post and on Twitter so you can click on it and find it, but get it and download it and watch it with us. And that's why we said buy it. Cause if you rent it, then you're going to, watch it with us and then you can watch it, with the sound later or vice versa. But we want you to enjoy it with us and kind of while we're talking and listening along while you're watching it. So just purchase the thing. Again, links are going to be on our Facebook and Twitter, and they're obviously going to be in the description of the podcast as well. So check it out and get it fired up. So if you need to, hit pause here, and then when you're done, come on back and we'll kind of get ready and we'll do the 3, 2, 1 play gimmick. So if you need to pause, this is where you're going to pause now. All right. Well, now that you're back, pretty simple. Yep. Real time, it's pretty quick, right? So. All right, Myron, I'm going to let you do the honors. We're going to fire this thing up, and like I said, we'll tell the story of how this even came to be while it's getting the opening credits and stuff going. But so for now, man, go ahead and get us to 3, 2, 1, and we'll count down. That's how we're going to do it. We're going to do 3, 2, 1, and play. All right?
Put your little arrows on the play button. 3, 2, 1, play.
All right. So as you probably noticed right out of the gate, this thing was at San Diego Comic-Con, which is a huge bucket list item for both of us. It just always falls right on my anniversary, so it's a challenge. So these scenes you're looking at here, by the way, folks, they're going to come up later in the movie, so don't worry about the little sound bites. You've had Briscoe, Kevin Kelly, and some others. You're about to see some stuff, and so you'll see it again into the movie. But real quick, I wanted to tell the story of how this even came to be. So the director of this film, Frank Zerillo, he actually reached out via an email, and this is the interesting part of the whole story, in my opinion. Emailed me out, said, hey, he had made a wrestling movie. He had heard about the podcast, and he wanted to see if we would do kind of watch it and do a review for it. Mm-hmm. And I responded back because, obviously now at this point we've known QT Marshall for a while now.
Quite some time, yes. Introduced by our friend Duckworth.
Drew Duckworth, yeah. Duckworth. Introduced us to him, absolutely. And so I emailed him back and said, hey, I actually know QT. Would absolutely love to do this. And he said, oh, well, that's awesome. It's cool, So, and I it's funny as I even reached out to QT and said, hey, we're doing this. And I actually asked him, what did he think, which way? And he kind of didn't care whether it was a review or the watch along. And I was like, well, let's do the watch along because I think that would be more fun. And a lot of other people thought the same. Because there will be some stories you could tell along the way, and then just kind of some shenanigans while we're watching too, so it's not all just seriousness. Because for the record, Myron, we've talked about this. This is actually very well done.
I enjoyed this movie much more than I should have because I knew the story. I've been told this story by the man himself. I knew the outcome, and yet I still teared up at the end of the movie. That's how powerful this was. This is how a job they did where they made you identify with QT as the everyday working man's hero, the Rocky, the guy who has a dream, but he has to pay bills to get there. Terrific job. I enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah, and we'll fill in some stuff if you don't know the story of what's happened since this documentary ends. We're going to throw in some notes at the end that are kind of that's but that we'll do those there. And kind of what you're seeing here at first is there's like I said, as the opening credits are still coming through, is a lot of QT's indie stuff, back in the day. And you can see, I mean, no insult, but there's he's obviously younger, in that those early shots here. Um, and you can just see it's the old grainy video footage from
Oh yeah.
from a gym. Like there's obviously a high school gym, something like that. And he'll discuss it here too. When you're talking indie wrestling, it's VFWs, high school
Hmm.
gyms, that kind of stuff. Um, but one thing that kind of intrigued me is we've seen him work, obviously in person plenty of times now.
From every stage possible. We've seen him at the State Farm Center in Atlanta. We've seen him at the school. We saw him at Landmark Arena. We've seen him in Monroe. Everywhere you go.
Yeah. So here we go. It's me. We've jumped a few years later. Obviously, all those video footages were from indie shows, um, but now they're talking to him, and as you could probably see, he's working for Snap-on Tools. He's got a full-time job there, and that's kind of the thing when you hear these guys talk. He's telling the story here of this is what wrestlers have to do. Like
Yeah.
when you're an indie star and you're indie talent and you're trying to work your way up and you want to get signed by the WWE, you want to be signed now,
Oh yeah.
AEW or whatever. They're working full time gigs Monday through Friday, 9 to 5s or Monday through Fridays or in the night
Hmm.
shifts or whatever to try to pay their
Jobs,
bills.
all kind of different jobs, just trying to get through and get day to day, so they can pay for training, they can pay for gear, they can pay for gas to get to shows. It's a hard living. This is a challenging thing to do, and people who try this hard, a lot of them don't ever make it at all, and that's what's so good about this story to me.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a far cry different from obviously what you probably want to be doing.
Hmm.
Because you want to make it to WWE. You want
Yeah.
to, you want to be like I said. I mean, that was his dream as a kid. Like, hey, I'm going to be a wrestler. I mean, there's a whole story about like he was a huge rock fan.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
and that spinning off of that, there's a cool story down the road that obviously he did a lot of movie work and he actually ended up in a rock movie.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We've talked to him before about his
Okay.
acting work and being an extra on a lot of stuff. This is where we get to the Monster Factory, though.
Yeah,
This is cool. I've always wanted to see this.
and it's kind of funny because that's this is the QT we know, right? The coach,
Hmm.
training, developing the younger talents and stuff like that. And it's in Blue Meanie,
Yep.
who we've met.
Oh yeah, super nice guy. And also, he comes across exactly in this as he does when you meet. He does when you meet him in person.
And here this QT's telling the story. Basically, they're getting ready. Gerald Briscoe, WWE talent scout's going to be coming and coming to the Monster Factory for a seminar, and to kind of look over and see if they've got some talent that's ready to make the jump.
Yeah.
And at this point, by the way, time frame, they're doing NXT tryouts, and that's kind of your goal essentially is to
Yeah.
work and earn a spot to get to get a tryout with NXT.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't know anything about being a wrestler, but we watched him train one night, and I picked up so many things. I was just in shock. And he's going over that with these guys here. He's showing them nuances. He's showing them the very little tiny things you can do to make things look so much better and so much more believable. How you can sell better, how you can strike better. Um, this is the thing he's so good at. He just polishes people, gives them that ability to step up to the whole nother level.
And yeah, like I said, when you listen to him talking, it's kind of,
Hmm.
we'll get into this. Some people later on when they're talking about him has one of his strengths as a coach is he tells you kind of that he shoots straight with you. He tells you what you
Yes.
need, and sometimes it comes off, it rubs people the wrong way. But here, a lot of people don't know this gimmick that we're seeing, from time to
Yeah.
time. The God's gift gimmick that he was running for a while there, especially Ring of Honor, was he was God's gift to wrestling because everybody always thinks women, but it was a gift, God's gift to wrestling. Um,
I
and
love
there's
that gimmick too. I loved it when when we get to see him run it because he is able to sell that so well as being arrogant and just that good. It's almost a Ric Flair type thing.
But it was a Ric Flair thing, and there's Danny Cage, by the way.
Oh yeah,
As you see, with Meanie, they're kind of doing some coaching along the way. But uh, it's an old school gimmick, but it's at the same time it wasn't Flairish to the point. It was kind of a mix of a lot of different ones.
mm.
Um,
Oh, there's Punishment Martinez,
yep,
Bob Evans, and Meanie.
Meanie hobbling the ropes.
Such a cool guy.
Yeah.
We met him in the lobby of the hotel at WrestleCade. Just a cool guy, but he's been there. He's been doing this forever. They're there teaching a student. They're going over about her cardio and how she does things and how she needs to run the ropes. And he wants to help. I mean, he wants to help the younger wrestlers and give people the little bit extra thing they need to make them, that next level. They're training there.
Well,
And there's
but I mean,
QT working with promos and stuff with them.
yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. It's kind of what he just naturally falls into. It's almost like
Yeah.
it's funny. The God's gift to wrestling gimmick is
Mm.
his true gift in the grand theme of things. Is the gift to the next generation of wrestlers,
Yeah.
teaching them. I think it's going to be his. Currently, I would say that will be his legacy. But there's a lot to be written, which we'll
Well,
discuss lately.
things have got big lately, so
Yeah,
we'll see
so
about that.
and and it's Meanie's talking about QT in the future and like what about because
Yeah.
he'd reached a certain level, he hadn't reached quite like he had reached Ring of Honor, but he hadn't quite jumped and made that WWE jump yet.
Well, he
Um,
is just turning 30 when this was coming out. And so he was a young man when all that stuff was happening, when all the different things were going on in his life. And at that age, I wouldn't have been capable of taking what the steps I needed to make the big move to get things like that done.
yeah,
Okay. And they're
and
gonna go ahead.
no, yeah, this is they're talking about like this is one like his early stuff. You're looking at this is '07, by the way. So we're talking 13 years ago. Well, 12 and a half years ago, whatever at this point. Where he's coming out. But it's the whole premise of this entire documentary is like your typical struggle of an indie guy, trying to make it to, and it's I don't want to say beyond the mat ish, because the story's, is a lot better, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I mean that in a positive way. It's like, and there's Carolyn,
Very nice. Very nice
sweetheart.
to meet his wife.
Yeah. And it's telling the story here of like, in the beginning, I mean, think of this business in general, and it's something Gerald Briscoe points out later. Here's, QT saying like, oh, she's always been supportive. But the funny thing is on the flip of the other video,
Yeah.
when it's her, she's admitting that maybe she always hasn't. And, like I said, Gerald Briscoe pointing out that this business this wrestling business isn't for everybody because it's not, it's not very family friendly.
No. Well,
Um,
hell, just being a wrestling podcaster can not be family friendly at times. You know how
truth,
hard it
yeah,
is.
absolutely.
The work we put into doing this stuff and the about going to live shows, Jesus.
And so yeah, so they've got and then one of the cool things you always hear about at the Monster Factory is the shows they run. I mean, they've got some of the best of the best. Mr. Vance, yeah. Um, because you got some of the best in the indie world working these
Mm-hmm.
shows. And here's the God's gift coming out to the ring.
Love the
Um,
robe.
by the way, why do you not like that music again? We tried it. Like I love his intro from this era.
I don't know. I don't know
We,
what that music is. I'm too old, Nick, to like music.
she should know better. She needs a better judge of character. She shouldn't be cheering that guy.
He's a heel.
Yeah. Now, and that's the cool thing is he comes out and he looks awesome, right? So,
Yeah.
and the other guy, I mean, not so much. I mean, he's so Punishment's telling a story here in a minute about not the fans want to like him because he liked the way he looks. He wrestles really well, so he's got to come out and he has to cut these promos and act like this where he's a jerk
Yeah.
to be the heel. And I mean, it's something he does so well.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll chuckle probably if he hears this. Because of how he comes off to people sometimes, he rubs you the wrong way sometimes. That it is easier for him to be a heel, I think, when he especially give him a mic and let him cut a promo.
Oh yeah.
I know these days it's he's more babyface, but I almost feel like he's a natural heel just because of the way he
Well, he's from up north. I hate to say that we're Southerners and we don't understand a lot of that, but they're different. They handle things differently. I think he is frank, very to the point, and a lot of people aren't used to that.
Right, and it's funny because it works. It's the reverse of what you think, right? It's
Yeah.
because as a coach, that's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
The trainer, that's what you want. I mean, you want somebody who'll tell you the truth
Yes.
and help you be better. And here's the scene here where he walks in the back, and then it's he's real good friends obviously with Punishment Martinez. He calls him at this point he was Luis, is his buddy's name.
What is what is his name in NXT now?
Damian Priest.
Okay.
Isn't that it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so here he is. He's telling how good of a friend QT is.
Mm-hmm.
Punishment went about as high as you could get in Ring of Honor. It was time for him to move when he went to
Yeah.
NXT. And I know a lot of people, because you got to remember, by the way, at that time there was no AEW. There was just that. So yeah.
It's Matt Riddle's wife, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and there's Matt Riddle, and he's done some pretty good stuff as of late, right?
Yeah.
Matt Riddle looks like a freaking $1,000,000. Obviously, this is when he was with Evolve, way before his run, and but he's talking about how influential QT, and there's the Punishment saying the same thing. That same thing. He shoots straight. He's helped their careers tremendously. Good friend to have, and he's Matt Riddle's gone on obviously to do everything under the sun on the Indies. Met him at Anarchy at the Landmark. Was it 2 Christmases ago?
It's 2 Christmases ago.
Yeah, 2 Christmases ago. He was at the Landmark Arena, and we saw, did a meet and greet with him. And, here we are a year and a half later, and he's going to SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
So he lost his match on NXT. Spoiler alert, it was last week, so it's not a spoiler alert.
It was a dynamite match.
Yeah, phenomenal match.
What do they call it? War pit, combat pit,
The pit, yeah.
It was
The fight
great.
pit, yeah, something
Fight
like that.
pit.
And and now he's on SmackDown. So and this is Sherry. She's QT's mom, and that's one of the struggles a lot of people don't think about. We always think of like girlfriend or wife or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But being the mom of someone chasing a dream to be a pro wrestler and the struggles that you've got to go through. This is
Being a parent, you want your children to be happy and follow their dreams, but you also want them not to get hurt. You also want them to be able to provide for themselves and go on and take care of things. But you can't support them every dream they make. It's got to be impossible. And QT was so committed, though, he made this work.
Yeah, and this is the funny story. He's telling a story about Seamus and his mom meeting Seamus, um, and thinking like if at this point Seamus hadn't signed, kind of thing or whatever. So, but it's this is like I said, QT going down the road. Me talking about earlier about the indie story where he says
Yeah.
indie wrestling is bingo halls,
Mhm.
BFWs, high school gyms, that kind of stuff, and pointing out the obvious. I mean, I know a lot of people say like, oh, you can make a great living on the indies. There are exceptions to the rule, but the rule is there really is no money in the indies.
No, no. Even the bigger stars still have jobs.
I mean, it's a pretty, you can, here's my thing too. And I always tell people define, make a living,
Yeah.
cause people will say like, oh, you can make 50 grand a year on the indies. Okay. I'm pretty sure they got into pro wrestling not to make $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong. I'm going to gamble. They thought they were going to make more than that. They wanted to make it to the WWE or AEW now at this point, Ring of Honor, New Japan, Impact, etc. They wanted to make really good money. So
This is where he's talking about the struggles that he went through as an independent wrestler trying to make it big. And it's very a heartfelt story. It's very touching. I think it's probably something most people trying to live the dream should watch just out of reality.
yeah, it's
And
like coming down to like paying bills and I mean it's
mm,
because it is a business. I mean, contrary to popular belief, it is a
yeah,
business. So Bluebell, Pennsylvania.
doing a interview.
So yeah, this is it's going to be Danny, Punishment, and QT doing a interview for a radio station of some kind, and it's you know obviously they're talking about the shows, upcoming shows, and they're promoting shows and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Geez, Punishment just looks like a star there. I mean, literally
Yeah.
sitting in a chair watching a
This is his
you know
first match, man. Look at this footage, though.
yeah, everything looks the same. Everybody's the same. His buddy laughing at him. That's funny.
So he doesn't even look recognizable in that footage.
Oh God, no. Yeah, he totally looks different. By the way, it's I don't it's, I didn't hadn't planned on this, but if you're not a Patreon member yet, patreon.com/tapped out pod, you should join alone because in the feed it's back a ways. I put an episode where we did a show pre
Pilot.
AEW, pre NXT. QT and Punishment Martinez did a pilot for a show we were going to do with QT. And then, of course, as we'll talk about later at the end of the show, life took off totally different direction. And Punishment's in, obviously, in NXT now, Damian Priest, and QT's in AEW. So the show basically never sees the light of day. But I basically could put it up on Patreon and they could do it. So how about that? We saw in Puerto Rico
Facing Daniel Bryan
facing Daniel Bryan. Yeah,
10 years ago. Wow.
that's just insane. I mean, he's been in the ring with some of the best wrestlers in the
I've
world,
got
and
that QT picture on my wall that they got up there. Oh no, I've moved it. I gotta get it back up. Shit.
see, this is something where we keep coming back to QT the teacher. I mean, look at the attention he holds just by and
Yeah.
that's a great story about just being prepared. Where one guy who was really good, they WWE was calling him to get it. He didn't answer his phone, whatever. So they called. Was it Colin Delaney? That was his name, I believe. Yeah. And they called him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, boom!" He picked his phone up and just happened to run up there. He gets booked on a show, gets squashed, gets booked the next week, gets squashed by Viscera, and then boom, next thing you know, he's got a contract, and he had been working a regular old job, and he just happened to be ready when he got the call, and he acted on it, and boom, that's wrestling.
You see the students at the Monster Factory breaking down the ring and moving them so they can accommodate the tryout. Do you see that spring, man? I haven't seen a spring under a ring except one time.
Yeah, the good rings have the springs yet. But yeah, basically he's telling the story of this is where how the students pay their dues when they first start. They have to learn taking the ring apart, and of all things, think about it. What did you say they moved this ring? They were moving it about
Oh,
10,
they weren't moving
15
it
feet.
far, not at all, not
It
far at
was just
all.
to center it up in the ring to do a
Yeah,
show, because Gerald Briscoe's coming to this. So
yeah.
now we're
And
going to see.
we've seen that at the GPW shows where all the students will take the ring apart at the end of the night
Yeah.
and carry it out and pack the truck before they can go.
So here they're going to show some clips of QT being used for some extra work, TNA, WWE, etc. Obviously, with the Abyss, he has to take the Black Hole Slam, and he's going to be a security guard. To me, I'm going to say something. Well, I know this is about QT more than anything, but I'm glad MVP's back on TV these days. I'm glad he's paired with Bobby Lashley. I think it's a phenomenal fit to help Bobby Lashley. It's a much better pairing with him versus him with Lana.
Yeah,
And I think JBL might be one of the most underrated heels of all time.
he's a jerk. He's a jerk. That's
Okay.
what he should be. Oh, there he is getting a spray tan.
Because if you're
Very
not
important
tan
thing.
enough, you can't be champion. That's what
Nope.
Bischoff says.
Well, it's a
Uh,
true story.
Here's the thing. I mean, and I'm not too. I always tell people like I'm not super tan, but my argument is it's and as a primary as a whole, there are exceptions to the rule. How many times we got to say that right in a show?
Yeah.
There are exceptions to the rule, but it's an aesthetic business.
Oh yeah.
And what is Arn Anderson? Fat doesn't look as bad tan.
Yeah.
I mean, so. And obviously I wasn't saying QT's fat at this point because he's in great shape here, even better shape now. But yeah, spray tan. It's a big thing, and here it shows him hitting it at the gym. And it's crazy when we talk to him, and he's you hear stories about like you see somebody who's in really good shape like him right now, and he talks about the struggles of his weight, and he's got to get his cardio in and that kind of stuff. But it was funny. I literally talked to him. Last time I talked to him, because it'll be later by the time you're listening to this. That's where he was. He was like heading home from the gym.
Yep.
So he's still putting in that work, and here he is fighting Road Dogg.
Selling. Look at how they're selling there.
It's funny. There's going to be a story we're going to talk about how Charlotte Flair, and there's a reason I'm talking about Charlotte Flair here looking like a star. I could say this 100 times and it wouldn't be too many. Punishment Martinez / Damian Luis Martinez freaking looks like a star when he walks into a room. I mean, he's got it.
Yeah, we saw him at. I don't know if you were there at that show I went to at One Fall where Punishment was there, just as a guest. And Jesus, he's an imposing human being.
Yeah, big dude. I mean, but I said he's just something about the look that he looks special, and that's something that it's a huge, massive plus. They're kind of going over some of the stuff. So he did get a run at Ring of Honor. This is, by the way, this is a great promo. It's 2011, obviously, in Puerto Rico, and it's Brazil.
Brazil, yeah.
Brazil. And he does he cuts some of it in Spanish. It's funny. It's funny. So he's got this tryout coming up, which you're going to talk about in there, and that's basically him cutting they asked him about it. You know, if they didn't pick him, well, what would happen? And you know, it's basically he said he'd be very, very upset.
Look at that. You got your trucks for Full Sail out there, getting ready for the tryouts.
Um, so now this is something that you know we have a. You can see the Gerald Briscoe seminars coming, and
Yep.
I stress this to a lot of talents. When somebody of Gerald Briscoe's level comes to a seminar, um, two things. One, when you're talking about seminars, right? It's I think there's too many of them by the
Yes.
wrong people. Um, but then there's you know the other thing is QT's in a suit.
Yeah.
He's a professional.
Hmm.
Um, you know the guys that show up in now. By the way,
Except for Riddle.
Matt Riddle can show up in fucking biker shorts and he's getting the
Yeah.
gig, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like the dudes. I mean, but his talent was already he'd already done so much.
I think Riddle probably would have
Do you
been up.
recognize that guy there on the right?
Uh-uh.
That was
What I missed.
Upgrade.
Oh wow.
So, and you'll catch. By the way, there's going to be clips throughout this whole documentary where there's people that we met, know, and obviously, and then of course there's some like Matt Riddle. Everybody freaking knows at this point. Um, this Red Scorpion guy clearly like you know thinks his promos are really good. And sad part is they're not bad.
No, not bad at all.
So and he projects confidence, which is really good. Now whether
Yeah.
the content itself was good, that's a different argument. But his projection of it was pretty good. But again, let's look in this room. I mean, um, ah, I don't want to compliment him too much because I don't want him to get a big head about it, right? But I mean, look at him just relatively in the room. I mean, he looks like he's a professional.
Yeah.
And it's funny thing, the guy's giving him crap about the suit. You can see him messing with him. He's like, yeah, man. I mean, show up. I mean, they're talking about like having resumes and stuff. Like, who doesn't have a resume, right?
Yep.
I should have queued this up and play. I should have tracked his promo so people could have heard it. There's some promos here later where they're in the ring, cutting promos. I'll track those and we'll let somebody hear them. Matt Riddle's the same. Here's Gerald Briscoe coming in, basically doing the introduction, telling them kind of basically what they're going to do that day. But he does pay a big compliment to Danny Cage's school.
Yeah.
Basically saying that these guys are all, when he comes there, they're always prepared and they always, they are good to go. The original bro. I mean, it's just crazy seeing him with the short hair though.
Yeah.
And in a second here, we're going to see something that's just crazy. If I can catch it, it's this part kind of blends a little bit to me, in the sense of what he's saying. But what he talks about evaluate him, how they're always evaluating him. Just even when you walk, they're looking at your foot. How your feet move and how they're always evaluating. Even when you don't think they are. It's not all about just wrestling. Like right here it is, yeah. So he tells the guy to walk up, and he's like, "I was watching your feet. I was watching kind of how you walk and how you project yourself when you're walking, and you got to look like a star all the time when you're walking." It's a tough job of an industry where you're always on.
Yeah. Well, he's talking about how the WB doesn't always want the made talent. They want somebody they can make They want talent. They want talented, moldable people. You know, Briscoe's been around for forever.
Yeah, he scouted some good people.
One of the best shooters of all time.
Haas and Benjamin, Lesnar. I mean, he's obviously a big amateur wrestling fan. So,
oh yeah, his brother was an amazing amateur wrestler. So Ron Fuller talk about how much he loved the Briscoes.
So it gives them this big intro, and then the So think about this here. So you're there for this tryout. So if you're professional, you show up in the suit. Now you've changed. Now you're ready to do the in ring stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a simple lesson on like what people don't think about. Like Matt Riddle's actually teaching guys how to do a roll in the ring. Because a lot of that's what the seminars are. I mean, it's funny. We always tell guys they're like, "Oh, I'm great in the ring. I'm ready to go down there," and then they go down to NXT or something like that. They get blown up because they're just doing drills all day.
Yep.
And so it's like, dude, you need to just be in phenomenal shape.
And a lot of those, from what I've heard about the WB tryouts and stuff, a lot of times they just bring you down there. You may not even do anything at all. They just bring you down there, and then they'll send you home. Because they have a lot of stuff they have to do. They've got people, thousands of people wanting to be there. They're testing you.
Matt Riddle showing off the textbook roll. The funny thing is, as big as I am, you would think I'd be able to roll, and I just don't roll very well.
I kind of flop around like a fish.
I usually roll, and here we go. We're talking about the drills and the strength conditioning and stuff that we're talking about. How
this stuff looked brutal.
Yeah, I mean, they essentially just want to see can they blow you up. It's what I feel. Now, I don't know if that's exactly what the goal is, but it feels like it, right? That's kind of their make you work out to make sure you're going to be able to hang. So, and then here's the crazy thing. You're in this window here where QT's damn near 30. He's 29, I think, right here. And he's in here with these kids that are, some of them are, 21, 20, some of them are maybe, mid 20s. And what he's trying to show here is that he can hang. He was so adamant that he wanted to be able to hang with these younger guys and gals. And that's kind of what he does here is just showing all the conditioning and stuff. I mean, between that's, like I said right there, he's talking about hanging with those young kids and being able to pull off all of these drills and do really well with them. And that says a lot. I mean,
I get out of breath just watching these drills.
And it makes you wonder, Briscoe's there watching, and it's like, what exactly is he watching for on that drill? Is he just watching to make sure you're consistently going and you're not stopping, or how fast you're going?
The more I see Riddle, the more he just looks like a genetic freak.
Oh yeah, I mean, just there's a shot that was online today that I saw with him like crunching up and his abs are all popping out. I'm like, dude's got
this box jumping thing he's doing there,
and how effortlessly he makes it look.
And QT's having to work, man.
Yeah, that's basically a football drill where you're just popping your feet.
I never was good at those.
Terrible.
I'd always fall down. But I had pads on though, so it was okay.
And this is the side, like I know, and it's funny when you talk about people coming up in pro wrestling and they want to be a wrestler. they want to have matches. They want to have the best matches, and such. You know, but you got to be that the laughter, the enjoyment after basically you did a bunch of drills to just make sure you were in good enough shape.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where some people fall short, is putting in that work. And here he's just making fun because he wants to make sure he, prove a point that he can hang with these young kids. And obviously he does. So is that I have to ask QT. I just realized, is that, what was his name's Sin Bodhi, or the gypsy pirate guy?
I know who you're talking about, but I don't think it is.
Yeah,
That guy's like a lot more ink, doesn't he?
maybe, yeah. And here's just the, like taking these bumps, back and forth, like just beating your chest up, beating it up against the turnbuckle there. Um, Briscoe's got the look. I mean, it looks, he's paying attention, obviously.
There you go.
Yeah, this is a speech. I'm going to track some of this. So let's lay out and let them.
All year long. I want every diva in here and every guy in here to be honest with themselves. If you can turn on Monday Night Raw or turn on SmackDown and see those guys in the ring and see their bodies, see how they perform, and see how they deliver a promo, their pacing of the promo, their cadence of the promo, and their verbiage of the promo, and look in the mirror and say, do I have that body? Do I have that charisma? Do I have that skill where I could stand up for 20 minutes in front of 3 million people worldwide, not only the 16,000 people in the ring and the arena, but the 3 or 4 million people worldwide, and have the intelligence to deliver a 20-minute scripted promo that they expect you to hit every key word in there. It's not an easy gig, guys. They get paid well, but you know what? That McMahon gets his pound of flesh out of each and every one of those people that you see on TV, 24/7.
Yeah, I mean, that's, crazy, man, when he's being bluntly honest with them, right? That, yeah, you can make a lot of money and it's a lot of work. And I think that's the problem. And there's a little bit of a delusionment, I think, maybe, sometimes, what I mean, with people that they're like, they see it on TV and they're just like, oh, I can do that. And that's really just not true. Everybody thinks it's easy because it's all over the internet, how, and
Yeah.
I can do that, or I'm better than that, or this guy's being, I think so.
Getting
And
ready
it's,
to do the school show.
Basically Danny and him are building the card there, yeah.
Guess that guy's training to be a ring announcer.
Yeah, he's over here. He's doing the like, this match is scheduled for one fall.
One fall.
And here's the there he's basically is there ever a moment, it seems like, in this video or this documentary where QT's not teaching?
No. Mm-mm. It comes, I mean, I think this must be just comes naturally for him to do this.
Yeah. So of course here's the, again, God's gift. He's gonna have a match here. While Briscoe's in town, they put on a show. Basically, no fans. I think these are just the other workers and whatnot in the crowd.
Like unlike the TV right now.
And it's work a camera, even though there's not a ton of people there, to still work, right?
Mm-hmm. Gotta hit all your spots.
And later on in this documentary, there's going to be a scene where it's he says something that I'll talk about it there as well. But it's going into a match. Sometimes it's not your night, right? You're going to take the L. But your job is to make the other guy, to make the other guy. Literally, it's what your job is. And sometimes you can be too good at that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you become Heath Slater. Sometimes you become George South. Sometimes you become, the Italian Stallion. You just got to be careful with that.
Look at what's his name? God, what's the guy? Pink and black guy on WWE. Dolph Ziggler. I mean, he is the best at putting some new talent or talent that doesn't get a lot of shots over, and he make people look so good that he's always in that spot, and he makes a lot of money being that guy. But
the thing is WWE needs to look for that guy too.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna cue some of these promos up too. They're pretty funny. When we get there, yeah. No.
Marshall only knows success. So the fact that I stand here, almost 30 years old, without ever holding a WWE contract in my hand with my name signed on the bottom line, it means I've failed. And here I am, the great Red Scorpion. Former college All-American wrestler. Big man, big brains, big brawn, big accomplishments. Gerald Briscoe. I say unto thee, if you want to see more of me, then I dare you, speak to the powers that be. There is a reason why when William Regal goes to Brazil to scout talent, the videos they show are of me. Everything about me screams big. I train big. I eat big. I sleep big. I like my women big.
You got to end right there, right? Because you got to go home with that. So, and you can see all levels. QT gotten a really good promo. Red Scorpion, not bad. The gimmick's probably where I lose it. And then the other guys just, horrible.
Oh, so he got to wrestle some matches at the Ring of Honor taping, which is cool.
Yeah, he had Ring of Honor worked in them. So in this one, they travel to the show, but unfortunately, They're not allowed to film because it's TV, obviously. But I wanted to play some of these when these come up. I wanted you to hear like some opinions of some of these guys who carry a lot of weight, in my opinion, in wrestling. So it's gonna be.
QT Marshall for about 4 years now. He had come into Ring of Honor basically with a lot of hype. Jim Cornette really liked him. He was very high on him, which in turn turned him off to the ROH fans very quickly.
The life of a professional wrestler is not easy. I have 2 boys, and if either of them ever said to me, "Dad, I want to be a professional wrestler," I could certainly open the door for them, but it's not a career choice that I would want them to make.
I took a liking to QT Marshall right away just because he has something. He has like a, people will call it an aura or something like that, but he always portrays himself as a star.
There isn't one name that I could say, oh, QT Marshall definitely reminds me of so-and-so. But there's so much that he brings. There's a little bit of swagger that The Rock had. There's the technical skill that you might see from a William Regal. And there is certainly that no-nonsense attitude that the Dudleys brought to the ring. I think that's one of the things that makes him so special, is that he is a blend of many different historical wrestlers.
So without a doubt, I feel that whether it be now or 2016, 17, or 18, as we go into the future, QT Marshall would definitely work well with the World Wrestling Entertainment Company.
So think about what he just sat there and said. So
that's Carino.
Yeah, that's Steve Carino and Kevin Kelly. Carino, by the way, now's with NXT, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin Kelly does New Japan. pro
Kevin Kelly
wrestling
does
commentary.
almost every he's a phenomenal commentator.
And the thought process is that they're there. They're both telling you, both in influential powers, that he should be wrestling somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, this is very, very funny to have met this, this does not surprise me in the least. The scene in the grocery store. QT trying to sneak cookies and cakes and stuff, and of course Carolyn's trying to make him eat healthy. So
is that what grocery stores look like up north?
I guess. I mean, I'm trying to see what kind of groceries. I've looked at this several times trying to figure out what store it is, but I can't figure out for the life of me what store it is.
See, my girlfriend has to hide the broccoli and stuff under the cookies.
Yeah, it's the reverse.
To get it home. What are these?
Yeah, it's like what? You can't take cookies. Yeah, we're not going to steal the thunder of that joke. This joke's pretty funny because, but you can just see it like you can't do this. Like, but as we joke about, right? I mean, two big dudes. I mean, I can, I more than relate to trying to sneak a cookie or something into the cart. I'm sneaking a chocolate cake in the cart if I can get away with it. But
Case of beer.
Yeah, anything. So I'll come back to the store if you want me to. That kind of thing. It's just as funny, but she's great. I couldn't say enough good things about. I mean, I jokingly say she's married to that guy. Of course, she's a sweetheart.
Yeah. Makes you take off your shoes before you can enter the house, though. Or actually, QT told us to do it because she likes that.
Yeah.
And she's part of what they do now.
Yeah.
Her nutrition training, and she's a nutritionist there at what is now the Nightmare Factory.
Yeah, we'll plug the heck out of her stuff when we're done here too, because that'll be part of the story here at the end. Looks like massive meal prep. Just cook your whole week's worth of.
I've been thinking about doing that lately since I've been smoking so much meat.
You should. I mean, if you're already cooking it and stuff, just, My challenge is I'd make that sheet of burgers or whatever he's making there, and I'd eat them all.
It looks like turkey burgers, though, man.
It doesn't matter. Meat, and I'll eat it.
Some Red Hot.
Yep. But it's all, man. It's about the struggle of staying in shape and working hard, and that's I think ultimately that's another challenge, like we talked about earlier. That dedication of what are you gonna, what are you willing to do, and it's putting in the work, putting in the diet, putting in the stuff, and staying in shape because you never know. And that's they mentioned like the nutritionist thing, and she's like, you can use my degree, and he's like, yeah, I'll be the nutritionist with it. So this is a scene that I wanted to address when it came up, and
I hate this guy.
So Kevin Owens basically, I don't know why he would say this, because he talks about like old school heel just means I'm lazy and whatever, and he brings up QT specifically. Now this is kind of the downfall. There's a lot of this, that people will say that QT didn't necessarily handle his Ring of Honor run.
Well, Cornette likes him, and Cornette hates Steen. Cornette was at Ring of Honor for a while. Apparently, I wouldn't imagine Ring of Honor fans be big Cornette fans.
And there's so many firsthand stories and commentary that we're just talking all over the top of it here because we don't obviously have the audio on. This is why I recommend that you buy this and not just rent it.
Yeah.
Buy it and go back and listen to this with the with the audio on and not just our commentary.
Now leave the video of us on. Just mute us and watch this.
No, man, dude,
You
I'm
can still
telling
see
you,
us talking.
watch this thing. Just watch this movie. Also like with just audio. I mean, look, you're fans of ours. You're going to listen, and that's fine. We totally get it because there's going to be some stuff in here. But it's just as a whole, like you got to watch this again with the time. I mean, with some of the names that are in here that talk about QT and his career, and the stories of dropping the ball. This is the whole. I'm not going to spoil it. There was his contracts coming up in Ring of Honor, NXT. There was a little bit of talks with NXT and stuff, and some things maybe weren't handled the right way. Is what you're hearing in places. So, and that's the other thing with wrestling. It's handling yourself like a professional. At all times.
Well, there's a lot of politics in wrestling too.
I agree with you there. And even from us, like from the stuff we do, there's politics and stuff involved.
Yeah.
But you got to be professional, right? That's what I tell people. Look at this young guy. And so he's starting to get close to his not here, but in a minute. Obviously in the timeline here, he's getting close to his tryout with NXT. So he's gonna do some like wrapping up some shows on the indies and stuff like that. So not a bad promo from a younger QT. No. So here he is in 2012. Basically, this was his bon voyage, so to speak, he thought, before his NXT. Everybody just, I mean, here's the crazy part. QT was so talented, I almost said gifted, and I didn't want to use the pun. So everybody just assumed he was going to get this tryout. He was probably going to knock it out of the park, and he was going to be, off to bigger and better things. And that's exactly what, his opponent here is saying is, going to toot his horn for him and basically say, hopefully they'll see him down the road at bigger and better things, because everybody just assumes that's kind of what's going to happen. Putting all that time in on all of those auction barns and, VFWs and high school gyms and stuff like that. So it's starting to we're coming up on the window when this thing's going to pay off, right? He's going to get this NXT deal, and he's going to developmental deal and take off. And the other thing I think this right here shows is that brotherhood that, he's, Now here to me comes the absolute,
the heartbreaking part.
Yeah.
He's teaching. That's Deonna Purrazzo, if I'm not mistaken.
And so Danny's going to call him in the office, and this is, like you said, this is probably the shitty part of the movie documentary.
Well, I mean, no, it's not. It's just heartbreaking.
No, it's the shitty part of the movie. Listen, we'll cut some of the so obviously, spoiler alert here, if you're watching along with us, this is where Danny Cage has pulled him into the office and basically telling him that WWE, NXT, whatever you want to call it, is pulling his tryout. They're going through this whole journey of, oh my God, this is, we've worked, we're going, he's going to be, and then he kind of blows off the cameras, which I honestly totally get. I mean, it was a cleaner version that they probably would have gotten from me. So,
yeah,
no reason, why, other than At this point, we don't know, but he's here. He's gonna have dinner, and there's some stuff. I wanted to place. Now I'm not gonna tell. I'm not gonna spoil this. You gotta buy it to hear this. This is a
tough.
in my house we call these come to Jesus meetings.
Yeah.
And it's weird to see this moment like
Yeah.
now. It's weird.
Powerful.
It's very powerful. I think this is probably one of the, and it's
It's uncomfortable to watch.
yeah.
It's real. It's very real.
And the reason you're, I don't. Some of the terms might not be the right way, but it's you'll know what I mean. Like it's heartbreaking here because you essentially feel like, and for every right reason. This is the bad part. For every right reason, you feel like his mother and his wife are at a point of like, okay, this is a sign. It's time for you to leave.
Yeah. How hard is this got to be for him to tell them this?
Like knowing that you're like, all right, so I shouldn't be wrestling anymore, blah blah blah.
Now I have to tell my wife and mother.
Yeah, but it's not. And it's funny. The funny thing is his persistence. Like this is not it. Like this is not the end. I mean, like I can stay with Ring of Honor. I'm going to make decent money. I can stay working where I'm at the
Yeah.
Snap on. I can make good money there. Combined out, I'm making really good money. Overall, I'm gonna put in the work, and then of course, well, what about training? You love training. Well, I'm gonna train.
With a fork.
Do what?
She's eating ribs with a fork.
Okay, don't mock me because last night I actually had ribs and I had to eat some of it with a fork. Maynard's ribs are like giant. Like I needed it to help get it a yeah.
Skip it now. If my teeth get any worse, I might have to start that too.
Here you do. Like I said, as a parent, the funny part is as a parent, like I totally get where, his mom's coming from. That look I've seen a million times from my wife. So I totally get where she's coming from. But at the same time, like here's QT essentially, dude, let's be blunt. He's hanging on to his dream for dear life. Like he doesn't want to lose it. And if nothing else, here's the thing is, this moment here makes you appreciate the guy even more.
Yeah.
That like at one point, like this conversation could have gone a totally different way. It could have
I
been.
wouldn't have handled it this well. I got to give him credit. This is not the kind of thing Myron does well. So I gotta admire his tact. I gotta admire Carolyn's patience right here, because this has got to be a heart-hurting, difficult meeting to do.
And that's what I'm saying because, she has every right to be worried about their future. Mom, the same thing. So to those challenging moments of what makes them challenging is you both feel like at the core, they're both probably right.
Yeah.
But he's got to sit there and fight for his dream. And what is that dream, right? Because like the funny thing is like with a wife, you're going to get every question of like, well, what does that mean for our future? What does that mean where we live? What does that mean how we're going to pay our bills? And again, you understand it, and you can see moms frustrated. They're grabbing, it's like rubbing. I do that all the time with my kids. I actually have to like grab my forehead because I feel like it's about to explode.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to take a drink and pause. Let them think something's going on in my head.
And, there's mom basically, like I said, almost pleading her case. And that look of, from QT of just like, like, how do you, and it's something I'm going to ask because, I want to ask him is like, so in that moment of, what is your brain thinking? Like, you know, they're probably
Yeah.
partially right, but it's not what you want and what you need long term to be happy. I mean, because you're right. What's he gonna do? I mean, is he gonna quit wrestling, go work at Snap On, drive that truck, and be miserable? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like I said, this is a long scene, obviously, with them sitting at the table.
Painful.
But this is like it. This is Act 3. This is like the culmination of where this, because this story right here goes one, like you said, goes one of two ways.
Yeah.
We obviously know, and we'll address once this is over, we'll address where it's gone to. But I mean, look at her. I mean, the plea in her face of like, dude, this is like, what about us? I mean, what about our future?
This has got to be tough, and the filmmaker does such a great job of capturing this emotion. You can see the hurt in his face, the worry in her face, the mother's love, having to be tough love.
Yeah. And like, so here we are, obviously, Jersey Shore, right? We're on the, and QT's, like I said, at this point in this movie, so at this point in this documentary, it's like, where's he going? What's he going to do? His future's in doubt.
He's reflecting.
But like I said, this is the part where he talks about, like, do you do the responsible thing? Do you quit wrestling? Do you take the job on the truck? Are you miserable for the rest of your life because it's not what you wanted? And me of all people, by the way, like, here's the funny thing: it's not wrestling, and that's kind of the crazy thing. I worked tons of jobs that I liked, maybe didn't love, and sometimes.
Oh, I get it totally.
Yeah.
My career path. What the hell?
It's doing what you like, enjoy and like, is a huge
I don't
thing.
understand the concept of loving your job, because I picked a steady salary over what I wanted to do with my life, and there's a lot of satisfaction I missed out on because of that.
So this was 6 months after that conversation, and here we see, he's working at Snap-on still. He's, clearly loading up the truck, and he's saying it clearly, like right here. That, I mean, it's like, is he, is he a failure if he's working at that years from then? Did he fail?
This has got to hurt.
Yeah. And this is the whole, like, when he's young, he's talking about how he's going to be WWE, how he's going to be a champion, he's going to be a star. And, sometimes it's when you see that, and then you look back 10 years later, 8 years, 10 years later, and you see it and you haven't done the things that you were sure you were going to make, that it can be, pretty brutal. You can look at yourself as a failure, right?
Definitely.
So, like you said, it could go anyway. I mean, go anyway, and by the way, I didn't know Snap-on delivered tools.
You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, they bring the truck up, and the people come out from the dealership or whatever and go in the truck and buy what they want. I've just always been fascinated with that.
Yeah. So obviously that's where they think they're going to wrap, but boom. So then here we are, literally just down the road from us in Norcross, Georgia. This is where we meet QT. This is where we
There's the man that introduced us
Yep.
right there.
Drew Duckworth to the side.
Got it to guess we've had on the show that's just filtered through this real quickly.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. Like I'm sitting there going like, oh, we've had this guy. But
There's Bill Barron's, X-Pac.
yep. So obviously QT quit his stepdad's Snap-on Tools company. He's come down now to Norcross, and Glacier, Ray Lloyd, and himself opened up the One Fall Power Factory, which would go on, and it's gonna say some of this. I'm not gonna read this here if you're watching it, because obviously I know what it says and actually being around it, right? They go on and they're one of the elite schools in the nation, as far as pro wrestling schools go, because they've got the Chip Smith Performance Center there, the exercise equipment, the workout equipment, for physical. Carolyn, his wife, is a nutritionist, and she kind of comes in and she does a lot of that stuff for the guys and the girls at the school, where diet, getting the right food. You saw punishment there. That probably wasn't too far from the time you were there that day. Well, you were probably there that night.
Probably so, yeah.
But you could see, Billy Gunn, Ernest Cat Miller, Neil Pruitt, X-Pac, so forth, have all come through. And then, of course, so much so, that was we've already addressed that Matt Riddle and Punishment both got signed, and have gone on to do great things in NXT. And Matt Riddle's obviously calling up SmackDown, and wouldn't be stunned if it was too much longer before Punishment's up himself.
No.
And by the way, yes, I call him Punishment Martinez still, and he's been there for over a year and a half now.
There's Glacier, who's also a phenomenal teacher. Just listen to that man talk is so amazing.
Don't ever give up on your passions, hopes, and dreams, no matter how long it takes, or what anybody tells you. Because here's the thing, that this the credits are going to roll here for a second, but we can kind of move on for a second. At that table, like as we were talking about the culmination of that that meeting at the table with his wife and his mother, most, and I maybe if I'm wrong, correct me here, but I think most men would have hung it up right there at that moment, because here's the crazy part: conventional wisdom would have told you should have.
Yes. And you see that emotion, and you get that. And that's why this ending is so amazing. There he is, back when he was with the Monster Factory in his robe. That's his dream, and he achieved it. He's now on AEW. He's a producer for AEW. He's got the best training school, maybe one of the best training schools in the country right now.
Well, let's backpedal up in this, because I'm going to hit stop on my play here. There's going to be obviously credits and stuff like that. With Frank Zarillo being the big one there at the top, who's the one who reached out to us. But I'm just going to close that out, and then get into the conversation of what's happened since then. Like you said, he should have hung it up at that moment, right? But he doesn't.
He didn't give up.
He moves to Norcross, and then by chance of chances, right, he hooks up with Cody Rhodes and Brandy. Brandy's training there. That relationship kindles up with him and Cody, who then, of course, as everybody knows, Cody, the Bucks, and Kenny and Hangman and them get with Tony Khan and start up AEW. He steps in. He can help production-wise. That all happens stemming back all the way back to the first All In.
Was running Guerrilla for him.
Yep. And just has steamrolled into, he's with AEW from an office and production level, and then it has spun out into now that everybody. It's funny because a guy that you first meet, and you can think dude, this guy could be an ass.
Yeah.
Turns out to be one of the nicest guys.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that guys want him to succeed and have an opportunity. and so that he gets an opportunity to get into the ring. And now he's in the ring and he's wrestling with AEW. He's partners with Dustin Rhodes of all things, right? And this is kind of the twist of something I wanted just before we went home here. I wanted to say, like, it's funny because of his age and he's getting such a late start, the comparisons to Diamond Dallas Page when he got his late start into wrestling.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, physically wrestling in the ring, that are getting the push, finally getting some recognition out there. And that's who, in a lot of these, the road to Double or Nothings and the elite skits or whatever, he's going to Diamond Dallas Page for advice and stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So overall, what was your
This is inspirational. This is an inspirational movie. It evokes emotion. It's very powerful. The filmmaking makes it where you see in their eyes when they're having those bad feelings. You can tell what's going on in these people's heads almost. You can feel their emotions. Like I said, I knew what the ending was. I knew what happened to the guy, and I still got involved in the story. And the story where he was trying to get, he was just driving a truck and working on the weekends. It was a lot. And I am so happy I got to see this. I've been wanting to see it for a long time. I appreciate the opportunity Mrs. Arillo has given us. And this was terrific. It was a very emotional, very inspiring story. And it's good to see someone succeed like this.
Absolutely. The fight, the dedication, and the push. I think because, a lot of people, when we think of like working their way up and things like that, it was really cool to see that documented all the way back to that point. And think about it this way sometimes, by the way. What if he gets that NXT tryout? He makes that. He gets sucked in there. He's there for a few years. Doesn't pan out. Is he where he is today?
He missed that opportunity. He misses the opportunity he has now. Who knows?
Everything happens for a reason, right? That's what they always say. But sometimes I do always correct people and say everything happens for a reason, but it doesn't happen easy. And sometimes you got to make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good lesson to be learned. And so it's definitely, check it out. It's the Wrestler, a QT Marshall story. It's on, like I said, on Prime Video, on Amazon. We'll put the links up there. Hopefully you enjoyed watching it with us. But go back and watch it again with the sound on, because like I said, some of those moments at the tables and some of those conversations are gut wrenching, and really, really enjoyed them. And highly, highly, highly recommend watching if you didn't do the watch along with us.
One of my favorite wrestling movies.
Oh yeah. And so we said we had a surprise at the end coming up. And so the surprise is, now I will say, literally the day we were recording this, I spoke to QT this morning and told him kind of exactly what we decided we were going to do and how we were going to do it, because we had an option of doing just like a review of the movie, and I just was like, let's try something a little different. But he surprised me and said at the end of the show, announced that we'll do a part 2 to this. He's going to come on the show and he's going to, basically do an interview sharing his thoughts with it, and doing an interview kind of letting us know kind of how that all went down and everything, which, and I want to dig into some of the emotion of like, how close was he to quitting? Wow. Because, that kind of stuff. So I'm excited that QT will be on pretty soon. We'll get that squared up pretty much as soon as, his schedule slows down enough that we can grab him for a day, and we'll get it knocked out. So I'm really surprised, and I'm excited to do that as well. So should be a good one, don't you think?
Oh yeah. He's been such a great guest in the past too. This was wonderful. I didn't know if I could sit and talk about a movie for an hour and 5 minutes or whatever it wound up being. And it was very seamless and effortless because it was such a good thing. I mean, I can't recommend this enough. Oh
yeah. So check it out again on Prime Video. Like I said, we'll put the links up on our Facebook page. They'll be in the description here as well. Definitely. We always say buy it, man. Spend the $9.99. I mean, if you're going to pay $3 to rent it, just drop the extra, drop the extra $7 and,
man, I love the Amazon Prime Video library. You can take it anywhere with you. You can watch it on your phone. You can watch it on the Roku. You can watch it on your TV in the living room, wherever it's at, and you go to another country and watch it.
Yeah.
It's so super easy.
So check it out again. It's The Wrestler, a QT Marshall story. And thanks again to Frank Zarilla, like I said, for reaching out to us and wanting us to do this, because otherwise we may not have. I mean, so I appreciate him actually pushing us to do it, and we'll do some maybe some more of these down the road with some other stuff as well. So, but man, any parting thoughts before we get out of here, man? Anything?
I'm inspired now. I thought this was a very inspiring film. I think anyone with a dream should watch this.
I agree. It doesn't matter what sport, doesn't have to be a wrestling, so forth and so on. Very inspirational for sure. But well, man, no plugs, no advertising on this one. This is something a little special. So, well, man, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.